Good evening, ladies and gentlemen out there in YouTube land. I am Deleted Scenes, human being American, and YouTuber Ronin, and I would like to welcome you to tonight's episode of Live from Sparkwood and 21. This series chronicles the 1990s cult classic series Twin Peaks, created by David Lynch and Mark Frost, its sister series, The Return, which appeared on Showtime in 2017, and the films of David Lynch. Tonight, the panel and myself will be analyzing the fan edit of Twin Peaks Fire Walk with Me. Like to say hello to a few people who have joined us here in the chat. Thank you to Connie Cleary for renewing her membership. The Bird Woman of YouTube. Friend of the channel, Andrea Black. Enigma Severs is joining us, my co-host on the Mystery Movie Night podcast. Welcome to Ruby Hoove. Channel member JPRPH1. Qapla' to our resident Klingon, Mark Malnikoff. Creator of the 10-Word Review, the host of Films with Friends, Big Al Presents. All right. And, of course, hello to everyone currently joining us on Twitter, or X, or Twitter X, or whatever you wish to call it. Yes, tonight we control the vertical and the horizontal. All right. Joining me on this Odyssey, the super fans, as I call them, Last Call, Troy Pacelli. You are muted, sir.
Yep, I realized that. Sorry about that. Welcome. There we are. Awesome. Okay, yeah. Let's get on with it.
Yes. His better half network.
Good evening.
And Flap Apologist. H.
You know, I had a fruit cocktail once in Atlantic City. Mind you, I'm not the fruit cocktail sort of guy. Did you get all that?
That's good to know. Was it in syrup or was it in water?
It's a line from Fringe.
Remember Fringe? Oh, okay.
Here's what happened. Lance Reddick, the FBI director, goes up to Walter Bishop. We really appreciate all you've been doing for the, for the team, Dr. Walter Bishop. And then that's what he says. And then he goes over to Peter Bishop and says, is he all there? And he says, no, he's not all there. I told you not to let him out of the asylum. Remember that? Do you think Flappy was a fan of fruit salad?
I think he was an opportunistic eater, would probably eat whatever he could. Yeah.
As long as it wasn't on his plate, it was on your plate.
Yeah, that's what I said, opportunistic eater, right? Anyway, so I'm not sure how you wanted to do this, Deleted, but I obviously have my notes, but I bullet pointed them or whatever, and I did it in terms of specific pieces of the missing pieces, specific scenes that were added to this fan edit that weren't in the original release. Again, we're going with the assumption that we've all seen Fire Walk with Me at least once, some of us 2, 3, 4 times, and in various ways, whether it was the theatrical release or extended cut or fan edits, there is more than one fan edit out there, even the missing pieces separately. But I thought maybe we could, having already kind of discussed on a surface level the prequel that is Fire Walk with Me, we could look at what the different missing pieces kind of brings to the story, And I'm going to say, and not even in all cases am I like, sitting here going, oh yeah, this is what it is. I'd be more open to it being a discussion and seeing what you guys think about it.
Mhm.
Um, yeah.
Go ahead and proceed, and if anyone wants to interject, fine.
Okay. So, a lot of my thoughts are yeah. I'm easily influenced because I like to keep such an open mind that I'm afraid my brains will fall out, and so a lot of the thoughts that I have are not original to myself necessarily. Um, I in the week leading up to this, and literally in the years since having watched Firewalk with Me for the first time, I've been on the message boards and the Reddits and the eventually YouTube and people doing videos and going to the festivals and talking with other Twin Peaks fans, some with really really great insights. But a lot of what I'm going to reference here, a big portion of it, I want to give attribution on the channel Camcorder Cameron. That's at Camcorder Cameron here on YouTube. Link in the description below is a video where Camcorder Cameron has a conversation with Cameron of Obnoxious and Anonymous, talking about Firewalk with Me and the missing pieces. They do it as a very literary kind of look, which I think is how we try to start out. But anyway, I wanted to give that attribution for you guys to go and check that out. Follow her channel. She does a lot of great film analyses, not just Twin Peaks. But I wanted to start with the extended Haps Diner suit. It looks like you go into that first bit where they go into what's his name's office. I forget the owner of Haps. He has an office there, and that office has a lumberjack sitting on the ground, a guy working on an electrical appliance that's getting zapped and stuff, and Chet has this conversation with him, and I feel like, without being too literal, I feel like there's a connection between what we're seeing there and what we're seeing in the convenience stores, particularly the electricity and the lumberjack and the dinginess and the kind of otherworldly kind of weird conversation that they have there. Again, I don't want to make it sound like it's too literal, like that's a literal one of those lumberjacks, a literal, Black Lot denizen or anything like that. But maybe it's an indication that there's some surface level thing going on there where Chet is having a brush with the lodge, maybe indirectly or obliquely, just like the Cowfonts, having a real world analog and are also characters within the lodge. How Mike is a real person who sells shoes in the real world, but he has an analog in the Black Lodge. You know what I mean?
Mhm.
Oh.
And I don't want it to be too much like what I suppose to a certain degree. What I'm really talking about, if you want to put this in a Judeo-Christian kind of concept, the whole idea of I don't think you can get away from this. The idea of like demonic possession, right? Where Mike almost literally implies that that's what's going on. That the character from the Black Lodge is like a demon that possesses him, and he takes some kind of drug to suppress that. You know, how Leland is clearly possessed by Bob. Side note: did you guys deleted and Boomer? Did you see the the video that I sent you this afternoon on X.
Oh no, I didn't catch
Oh,
that. I'm sorry.
No, sorry, no.
That's perfectly fine. It was just a short. You guys can check it out later. I want to share it with you live on air so that everybody can benefit from this.
Oh.
So
Okay.
this is a little divergence, but it's important. We've talked about this in terms of Fire Walk with Me before, where it opens up with the smashing of a TV, right? Mm-hmm. And I have said, and many fans have said, this is clearly David Lynch's working out his frustration at working with the television network, which was ABC, right? ABC had given him a mandate that by the second season, he had to either wrap up the mystery of who killed Laura Palmer or at least give some sort of an indication that people knew there was an answer coming. And that was very much against his creative vision. And he hated that, and he, smashes the TV. Right? Do you know who the executive was at ABC who gave him that directive?
Kathleen Kennedy.
No, but you're very close.
Iger.
Bob Iger.
Mm-hmm.
And Bob, this is not speculation. Bob Iger talks about this in his book. Now, what's not clear, but I don't believe in coincidence, is the fact that the villain character, that is tormenting Laura, is called Bob. Just saying.
Ooh.
So there you go. And I'm sure that Boomer will be back momentarily. I think he just was so blown away by that revelation. It blew him right out of the studio. But anyway, that being said, I wanted to share that with you. And then let me get back to what we were saying here. So, like I was saying, we have this concept of I don't like calling it demonic possession, but I think that's kind of implied. So this idea, at least of the other world, the others, the demons, the angels, the fae folk, the old gods, whatever you want to call them, the aliens,
Unclean spirits.
Unclean spirits. Yeah. That's a great way of looking at it. Influencing the real world. But also this idea of him being at Haps, having this encounter that mirrors the encounter with the lodge. We know also that he's going to disappear soon and end up with his own lodge experience. Very similar to the places, this office is very similar to the places that Mr. C passes through in The Return on his way to see Philip Jeffries, another FBI agent that disappeared into the lodge. So, and again, all of that, most of that was cut from the original and wasn't.
Now, here's a question for you.
Okay.
For Jeffries. He appears, he's rambling some nonsense off, and then he disappears again. Did he go back to the lodge?
We don't know, although I would argue that based on what we see in The Return, yeah, we have to assume that. And I'm also supposing that the same thing happens to Chet Desmond.
Because what I'm thinking, and I could be totally wrong on this, is that Jeffrey escapes. I got a message. I got to tell you something. I don't have a lot of time. Blah, 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 blah. And then he's gone again. So it was like he got out, but then something yanked him back in.
I would agree with that, except I didn't see anything, even in the missing pieces, that indicates that he had any agency in escaping, as you say. We're going to get back to that scene a little bit later because that is one of the missing pieces too. But we do see that Chet takes the ring, and the ring is very, very key, and I mean the pun there. In Fire Walk with Me, it literally is a key into the lodge. We see it with Chet. We see it with Laura. We see it in the in the return when Mr. C says, "Put the ring on so and so," and then his body disappears into the Black Lodge. So whether or not Philip Jeffries entered or left the lodge based on that ring, I do not know. But I'm pointing out parallels. I'm not necessarily saying how these things are connected. What do you guys think? Yeah, things that make you go, yeah.
I don't know, man. What do you think the connections are, Stephen?
Oh,
maybe you're still thinking.
Oh,
Maybe you're still thinking. I'm sorry.
Yeah. So
That's okay.
We're still collating.
Well, okay. Let me go on to my next point because it does kind of directly relate to this. The character of Chet Desmond. Don't know if you guys knew this or not. I don't think we brought it up in previous watches of this. Chet Desmond was a created character that was originally supposed to be Dale Cooper. This was meant to be Dale Cooper's prequel arc, and basically leading up to, him entering the town of Twin Peaks and blah, blah, blah. Remember when he's recording his notes about the Laura Palmer case, he tells Diane that this was like the Teresa Banks case the previous year, right? So kind of like all of us did with Star Wars, we all had in our mind the prequels already because of lines that were said during the main story. Same thing here. We had suppositions about, I was assuming all along that Dale Cooper had been on the Teresa Banks case, only for this movie to establish, no, it was Chet Desmond. Well, apparently, I guess Kyle MacLachlan did not want to return initially to do a prequel, so that's when they came up with the Chet Desmond character. They also have that scene of him taking the ring and disappearing into the lodge because that it literally just removes him from the story, leaving it a Blue Rose mystery, and also giving Dale a reason to, then come into the story. I could see Dale Cooper in every scene and place that Chet Desmond is in, with the exception of finding the ring and disappearing. But I can just as easily imagine him receiving all the information on the case secondhand, which later on we see him receiving from Sam. And speaking of that, the Sam Stanley Dale Cooper scene was also cut from the original theatrical release. If Chet is doing everything that we imagine Dale would have done in the Teresa Banks investigation, we need this handoff of the intel. Yeah, go ahead.
Well, would Cooper have fought that obnoxious sheriff, though?
No. Yeah, that I don't think. And of course, that whole fight scene is another one of the missing pieces. That I don't believe was in the original theatrical release. Correct me if I'm wrong, Deleted, but and it
No.
Go ahead. Yeah.
It is.
Yeah, okay. No. Yeah, okay, that's what I thought. I've watched it with the missing pieces so many times I actually forget what was and was not. I like it because it gives resolution, but no, it doesn't seem like the kind of thing that I would have expected from Dale Cooper. And the fact that it was cut maybe says that, well, actually, from what I understand, David didn't want to include that as one of the missing pieces. He didn't want that scene in at all. And he kind of was pressured to put the scene in based on a little bit of fan pressure because of leaked photos of that scene that had gotten out. People knew that it existed. People had seen copies of the scripts. They really wanted to see that scene. And a lot of the fans felt it was very much a cathartic moment for those characters. But I feel that particular scene only works for Chet Desmond. So, in answer to your question, Delete, I agree with you. Probably wouldn't have worked as well with Dale.
What do you think Dale would have done in that situation?
So that's a hard question because I think all of us tend to project back the Dale Cooper that we saw at the beginning of the pilot or earlier. We project back even less development in the character. I think of the conflict he had with, in a much lesser way, with Bobby during the interrogation, where, he makes some smart ass comment and he just smiles and he looks at Sheriff Truman and then he looks back at Bobby and goes, Bobby, this is how this works, and he just, lays it out for him. He doesn't take any crap. So I really get the impression that there would have been something that Dale would have done. Like maybe he would have even used those exact same words where he would have said, Sheriff, let me explain how this works. What do you call it? A federal officer, so on and so forth, impeding an investigation. Would you like to be arrested? What do you think happens to lawmen that ends up in general population? I see this picture. You look really tough. How tough do you think you would be in prison? That's how I think he would have handled it.
Probably.
I think it would. And I think it would have been a very equally humbling circumstance for him. But I don't know. Maybe they would have just avoided it. Maybe would have just gotten what he needed and moved on. But
right.
Interesting,
though, the differences.
Oh, absolutely. And so I was starting to lead into the whole Sam Stanley, Dale Cooper scene, which I feel it was such a missed opportunity, just to see those two together, on the big screen. But whatever, for whatever reason they didn't. So yeah, we really need the whole explanation for. This is where Dale gets the letter under the fingernail, all the details that he is going to then look for with Laura, which establishes, a cross state line, serial killer kind of situation. Cameron noted something that I thought about as we were watching this. Was it last week or the week before? The white liquid that Sam has in a vat and he's churning it. And he, Cameron drew a parallel with the scene of Dido in the woods in The Return. And I'm not clear on that. Maybe I don't recall the scene that well. Maybe I'll have to go back and watch that scene over again. But the parallel I do see is to the black liquid in the Circle of Sycamores. So I'm wondering if there's something there like white liquid that Sam is doing something with, the black goopy liquid in Glossenberry Grove. And it does kind of fit with those kind of gross kind of biological, kinds of images that David Lynch likes to play with. I don't necessarily want to presume too much on that, but just throwing that out there.
Well, as long as the white substance wasn't sold on the market as a new dessert. I'm sorry, I'm kidding.
Yeah,
that's the plot of the stuff.
When I first saw it, it looks like my first impression was like fiberglass, because it's got those fibers around the outer edge, But then I was thinking, when I thought about Glossenberry Grove, I'm thinking pine needles and tar, and I'm seeing like a parallel there. So I don't know what that's about. And again, I guess we always have to fall back on the fact that, yeah, this was a deleted scene. So, you know,
Was it supposed to be in there, or was it?
or, well, it was clearly supposed to be there because he filmed it.
Right.
But at the same time, it's like, maybe I understand why he dropped it too. Maybe he changed his mind. Anyway, you got any thoughts about that deleted, about the goopy white stuff in that scene?
I wasn't quite sure what that was.
Okay.
To be
Okay.
honest.
Were you
Yeah,
afraid he was
I
going
don't
to
know.
touch it with a stick and then would jump up the stick onto his arm and consume the arm like the glob or something?
Well, that,
Get the stick, get the stick, get the stick.
Get the stick, get the stick. I don't know, because I try to be careful, because when it comes to Twin Peaks, I do tend to overanalyze certain things. And sometimes a stick is just a stick, and it doesn't have any kind of particular meaning to it. So I don't know. I guess I didn't attach any meaning to the white substance, but
Homemade Ketracel white. Yeah, that's funny, Mark.
Okay.
But no, yeah, I get that, and that's why I tend to be as conservative as possible with something that I really don't have an obvious answer to. But I think that wild speculation is fair, and at least trying to tie it to any other parallels that look similar. Let's see what else. The other thing I was going to say about the whole boxing match between Chet and the sheriff, might not have even happened if it had been Cooper, because don't know if you knew this or not, but what's his name? Chris Isaacs, is that the one who played Chet? He used to be a boxer.
Oh, I see. That makes sense.
So yeah, it was very much a scene for him, in a lot of ways. There was one scene that everyone seemed to agree wasn't really necessary, if nothing just for pacing, but I'm going to defend it slightly. The Good Morning Irene scene, after they leave Haps and they're going out to their car. Oh gosh, it's morning. We've been up all night, and interacting with Irene, and she's just as cantankerous as she is on duty.
Yes.
It doesn't really bring anything to the story besides being an epilogue to the entire Haps extended scene in the Jack's office bit. But see, there is also this little shot of the electric pole outside and the noise from the arm, which admittedly we see and hear that, elsewhere. But it still does tie this to that supernatural aspect. In the arms statement, I sound like this, right? And throughout the missing pieces, you hear that woo-woo sound every single time. They do an ambient shot of an electrical device or a electrical pole or a phone line or something like that. So yeah, I kind of feel like, and maybe I'm just grasping at straws, but I feel like it kind of, reinforces my theory on the whole Jack's office scene, and foreshadowing of Chet, kind of getting in over his head on this whole Blue Rose. He's the one who kind of understands what the Blue Rose cases are, that they really are woo-woo cases. And I wonder if woo-woo is, an intentional nod that David Lynch is putting in with that whole bit from the arm. But I also get the impression that Chester Desmond, especially Dale Cooper at the beginning, Jeffries as we see him, are just getting involved in something that is much bigger than they even realize. Even what's his name, Wyndham Earl. Wyndham Earl's probably the closest to understanding, and even he, you know, it's the kind of arrogance or naivete, depending on your perspective, that you see in characters in a cosmic horror, in a Lovecraftian type of story, and
Huh.
you see a lot of them falling to this cosmic thing. You see Chester Desmond disappears. We have Wyndham Earl going insane and being, you know, consumed by Bob. We see Jeffries turning into a teapot, I guess. And we see Dale Cooper ending up in some sort of a time loop by the end of all of this. It's, you know, and I think the only one who stands back a little bit from this and gives all of it the respect is due is Cole. I think Cole's the only one who really, you know, says this is, let's observe, let's stand back. And the closest second would be Garland Briggs, but even he kind of gets consumed by it, you know, but if for no other reason, at least he's absolutely going at it for the greater good and not with selfish motives, because we see Jeffries, we see Wyndham Earl definitely have these very selfish, you know, summon the devil and try to use his powers, you know, for my own benefit, and it just ends up destroying them. But anyway, maybe I went a little too far. Have I said anything that you guys wanted to chime in on? Have I gotten any thoughts going?
So you think?
Yeah.
Well, it's hard to say with Dale in this movie. He is a bit excited about the Jeffries thing, right? He's observing it, right? He's full on, where I think you're right. Gordon Cole is taking more of a backseat observing, but again, is that youth versus seniority though? I mean,
I like to think it is. I like to think it's youthful excitement as opposed to wisdom. You know, he's, because let's face it, Cole also has a kind of childlike excitedness, but it is very much tempered by wisdom. He knows how big and dangerous this is, and I didn't even realize how much so until we see him in The Return talking about Jaude and the Sumerians and all that kind of stuff. I'm like, wow, this guy is like Ray Stantz, you know, in his you know, understanding that there's greater things in heaven and earth than are dreamt of in our philosophy, and they are dangerous, like nuclear bombs. And I use that analogy very, very intentionally. Charlotte Nightstar, hello, good to see you. So that kind of leads us to a scene that, you know, speaking of the youthful exuberance of Agent Cooper, I'm kind of glad this one scene was left out. It's the scene where Dale Cooper addresses Diane from outside her office, and he has a very casual, playful banter with her. Mm-hmm. So much so that it seemed out of character for where Dale should have been in that moment. When you think about the recordings that he does, and especially like the audio tapes, you know, the expanded universe stuff or whatever, there's a line that he says in there where he's like, Diane, I want to take a moment to thank you for your, and I'm paraphrasing, I don't remember the exact words. He says, I want to thank you for your assistance on this. I can't tell you what it means knowing that I have someone of your insight, you know, backing me up on all of this. There's this huge amount of respect and friendship there. And I just felt it was too silly bantery. It's not the kind of Dale Cooper you're hearing on the tapes. But I do suspect that what it was really meant to be was more a meta, tongue-in-cheek, ha, I'm talking to Diane, who's ostensibly right there, but, you still don't get to see her, at the audience. And I'm like, it's probably better they
I
cut
always
that
kind
all
of
together.
wondered if when Diane got these tapes from Cooper, if she's there going, what the frick is he rambling on about now?
I always kind of imagine that too, but I love the fact that she was always Johnny on the spot with it. She kept the logs, and when he asked for the earbuds or the whatever he asked for, he got them. She was an excellent assistant, and that's why when we see her finally in The Return, you realize she was very much involved in all this. I mean, even more so. She's another one that ends up becoming consumed by the Lodge, and you realize that the Diane we're actually seeing was just her tulpa, right? So, that's kind of gosh, right? And we'll get more into the tulpas and Diane and stuff as we start going through the Return again. But I didn't care for that scene, and I'm kind of glad that particular one was cut. Did you have any thoughts on that? Yeah.
Well, one thing, kind of going back a bit, and perhaps this has been asked and answered on another show, is why does Cooper seem to be dreaming of things that eventually do happen? I mean, aside from the fact that he's the Kwisatz Haderach.
It's kind of funny because, in a way, if you think about it, you kind of
parallels. Yeah.
Yeah. Let's put a pin in that one because I think there's a couple of other scenes that we're going to be talking about that I think kind of touch on that. Mm-hmm. Let's use that one for the wrap up. I think I've got some ideas on that. But I want to get into what's probably one of the juiciest scenes in the Missing Pieces and the fan edit, and that's the extended Philadelphia scenes. And Philip Jeffries, those scenes, I don't know if you realize this or not, but these scenes are set in the movie in 1988, though the script had it set in 1989. Implied to be happening in parallel with Laura going to pick up Donna. That's literally how it's cut. You see him show up at in Philadelphia. You see Laura, going to pick up Donna. By setting it a year earlier, we get the bit of Jeffries reacting to it being 1989 on the calendar, and so why that matters. But then we also have Jeffrey referring to 1989 in The Return. And I do feel like the scene from The Return where Jeffries talks to Mr. C should also be revisited with this encounter in the Philadelphia office, like side by side. We may have to do that later when we get again to The Return. But there is a meta difference between 89 and 88 because of an editorial decision and what we also see actually filmed. And then again, what's referenced in The Return. But I also think you could very easily kind of push that aside and go, well, wibbly wobbly, timey wimey, especially anything related to Philip Jeffries, right? Another man out of time.
Did we get enough of Philip Jeffries in this? He's kind of the most mysterious character, I feel, in a lot of ways in this whole shebang.
I agree, and I do feel like Mark Frost tried to fill in more of that with his Final Dossier and the Secret History of Twin Peaks, we do get a lot more about Jeffries, but still not a lot. I'll give you a little something else about Jeffries, and I'm not sure you're going to like it. So regarding the whole Judy thing, originally Judy was conceptualized as Josie Packard's sister. Interestingly, from the script, the original shooting script, the head clerk's line was, "Here's the key, Mr. Jeffries. I hope you enjoy your stay here at Palm Deluxe." Then he grabs a note. "This is for you, the young lady. She left it." It's not a full word, but it really looks like he was going to say juvenile. Well, one of David Lynch's favorite films was Kubrick's Lolita, which does include a scene where the main character is trying to get a room for him and Lolita. Now, the scene has as it was shot, not written, but how it was shot, was not the juvenile, whatever it was he was about to say. What he actually says, and this is characteristic to the setting, La Señorita, which could have the same meaning as juvenile, but wouldn't immediately have the same connotation, right? La Señorita could just be a young unmarried woman, not necessarily a juvenile, but it could mean a juvenile. So I wonder if the decision in that scene as filmed was, let's maybe back off of that a little bit.
Yeah, because, it's going in a weird area.
It really does, but at the same time, it certainly does imply something about Jeffries that isn't 100% kosher. And if Judy was originally supposed to be Josie's sister, are we going to assume younger sister? Much younger sister? That's kind of creepy. But as the character of character, I guess character is appropriate to say, as Judy is what she claims to be, we could also be dealing with another extraplanar creature, this Jaude, this Sumerian, female demon type being, having a direct influence on Judy. Maybe Judy, right? This young girl was in fact an analog to Laura Palmer. The way Bob is trying to corrupt Laura, maybe, Judy was doing the same thing with, or Jaude was doing the same thing with Judy. And that might have implications on her connection to Sarah, and how that whole story evolves later on in The Return. I'm just spitballing here. I'm not making hard and fast connections because the time doesn't line up really either. We're talking about Judy having to be, using two different hosts at the same time, if that was the case, and I don't know that that's the case. So
right.
And maybe I'm assuming too much about this Judy he was going to meet and how literally that connects to Jaude, Anyway, what do you guys think about that? Kind of creepy when you think about it, right?
Yeah, a little
We
bit.
don't talk about Judy.
Yeah, that's probably why you don't want to talk about Judy. Exactly right. Okay, I can.
Well,
I mean,
honestly, but before I became aware of the whole Jaude thing, I was always assuming that Judy was someone that perhaps Jeffries and Cole had in common, kind of like Caroline to Dale
Oh,
and Wyndham, and that's kind
that's
of where my
interesting. Yeah.
brain went. You know, obviously they had something different in mind, um, but or maybe they didn't at the time. I don't know. But I was just always assumed that it was just going to be this weird, random thing that he was going to bring up at that particular moment. Now we have some context.
True. No, you're absolutely right
Yeah.
about that. And that brings us back to the convenience store scene, extended and intercut with Jeffrey saying that he was with them there. He sees, we see the electrical pole as if we're going along the currents into the wherever the lodge, I guess. I don't know. An excerpt from the script. Of what's being said here. This isn't exactly how it was filmed, but this is the excerpt from the script. And this is said by different characters. Going up and down, intercourse between two worlds, light of new discoveries. Why not be composed of materials and combinations of atoms? This is no accident. This is a Formica table. Green is its color. Our world. I wonder why he decided to drop the line about the composed of material and combinations of atoms, but it implies that he was thinking of these lodge denizens as not being creatures of material. They were, well, I don't think he's implying it. I think it comes across very clearly. They are creatures of energy. That's why they travel through things like electricity.
Yeah, they kept the arm kept talking about electricity.
Exactly, and I think that Fire Walk with Me kind of hits us over the head with it, and I sound like this, woo, and then we hear that sound every time we see a light pole or we hear, you know, the crackling of sparks, whether it's at Haps or when Cooper is examining the body. We get a little bit of that too when Chet is examining Teresa. There's similar parallels there. And from the this I found very interesting. From the convenience store scene, you realize how much the Arm and Bob seem like partners in crime. You know. Yet it seems like the Arm is trying to help Laura and is opposed to Bob at different points. And he really seems to be antagonistic to Bob at the end. So I'm still not 100% clear about the Arm. And I think that gets a nod at resolution to the whole evolution of the Arm and how you get the impression that you're seeing two different aspects of the Arm, one good and one evil. Like a doppelganger and a non-doppelganger of the Arm. And keeping in mind, too, that we know that the Arm is literally Mike's arm. It's part of Mike that he cut off when he decided to break away from evil, right? So to speak. He claims to have seen the face of God, and he's ostensibly repenting by removing the whole arm.
For all I know,
some sort of a mark on it.
That might have been what actually happened too. I don't know. You know?
I mean, I tend to think of you know these lodge denizens as not being literal physical manifestations, especially from a line like this. You know, why couldn't we be composed of material and a combination of atoms? Right. Oh, sure. Why couldn't you? But ostensibly you're not, otherwise you wouldn't ask that question. They're clearly creatures of energy, so it makes me think of things like the Q in Star Trek, right? There's this great bit where I can't remember which episode it is, where they're dealing with the Q and his, you know, manifestations and whatnot, and he goes, none of this that you're seeing is literal. This is just for your way of interpreting things that you couldn't possibly understand. And I feel like that's kind of the same thing with Bob in the arm and Mike and all that lodge stuff. It's a dreamy kind of way for us to conceptualize some very non-linear, non-physical, three-dimensional type things, or maybe not. I don't know. Maybe I'm talking out of my ass. I don't know.
Well, as David would say, that's very interesting, right?
That's a very interesting perspective. Yes. So going back to Laura and Donna, they're talking again on the way to school. There was a line in the script. Donna, were you with Bobby, or are you two still fighting? Laura, no and yes. I don't know what I'm going to do about Bobby. I know he is seeing someone else, and that's okay with me. And he thinks I'm seeing someone else, and that's not okay with him. Donna, are you going to tell him about that someone else? Laura, I don't know what to do. And in case it wasn't clear, James doesn't call Laura at her house. We never see that. He calls Donna, and Donna tells Laura that James wants to see him. James is a secret from everyone but Donna. Kind of like her diary is secret from everyone except Harold. Just my take on it. And I also think that we see a lot in the relationship between her and Donna, and her relationship with James. It's like she wants to protect certain people from the evil she knows is corrupting her, right? That's why she goes to Harold to hide her diary. That's why she doesn't want anybody to know about James except Donna. And for the most part, she tries to protect Donna. And that goes a little skewy when we get to Partyland. We'll get to that in a second. But we have the scene, the school book scene where Sarah's coming home with groceries. Laura's on her way out, getting the door, hold the cigarette, that whole thing. It's about the only scene where you ever see Sarah kind of being normal, like a normal mom.
Yeah.
And then later, Sarah confronts Laura about lying about the school books. She says they were right there in your room. So you weren't going back to school to get your school books. Where were you actually going? And Laura just immediately comes up with another lie. Oh, I wanted to see Bobby, and I know you don't like Bobby, so I didn't want to tell you. That's what I was doing.
Well, what got me on that scene is if Mom was just in her room, well, Laura had the ashtray sitting right out there. Mom didn't see the ashtray to know she was smoking.
Yeah, in that scene, in the previous scene where she's the books and everything, she makes Laura hold the cigarette, and Laura takes a smoke from the cigarette. Yeah. So she knows her daughter smokes. She may not like it, but she also probably feels like she can't really say much about it, with as much as she smokes. So like I say, she confronts Laura, and they have this argument, and then she says this. She says, you can tell me anything. And there's this feeling like Sarah knows the big secret, but doesn't have the ability to step up and do anything about it unless Laura kind of reads her in. And this is her saying, you can tell me about what's happening to you, and then maybe together we can deal with it. But unless she does, it's like she alone can't.
I think Laura's take on that would be more of, you can tell me anything. Can I? Can I really? Because I think the fact that Mom's brain is already broken, would destroy her. My husband is doing what? I
think you're right. And I think there's also an element of, I think we talked about this over the past couple weeks, where Laura herself doesn't seem to, she keeps saying, who are you? Who are you? And whether she knows or not, she's trying to repress it to the point where she eventually can't repress it anymore. And she literally she gets all the clues. No, it can't be him. It can't be him. She sees him, coming out of the house and the diary and all this other kind of stuff. But eventually, when he's literally on top of her and she sees him, she sees through the illusion, and she's horrified by it. Only then is the illusion completely broken, and she knows. And of course, this is just a day before, the end pretty much comes. So if Laura herself doesn't really know, maybe Sarah doesn't either. She suspects, but doesn't know for sure. We also get to see, there's this whole bit with the, I'll get to that in a second, because we got another scene coming up with that. You get the dinner scene where, it's all silly and funny, and the Norwegians are coming and repeat the Norwegian, and
which Laura did very well.
And it was funny, but it was, and sweet, and it was a nice family moment, but it was a bit over the top. It was almost like everybody's kind of overdoing it, because this really is a broken family trying to be normal. And what's sad about it is it's an insight to what their family could be like if it weren't so broken. It kind of comes off as fake. At least that's the impression I got. I don't know if you guys saw the same thing.
Well, my problem is I don't know their full dynamics through the years. Like, this may be an in-joke that they've acted like this in the past that we haven't seen. Maybe not for a while, maybe not since Laura was a preteen or even younger, you know what I mean? Where they would do silly things like that at the dinner table. So we just don't know. But do they seem surprised when they're doing this thing that they're doing this weird stuff, or maybe it's something they've done before, maybe years ago during happier times, perhaps before Bob started showing up. I don't know. I
get the impression that they're all a little bit goofy, and I think that Leland pretty much leads the goofiness, and I think they're a little bit weary from all the things they've been through, and they kind of are like thankful that there can be a moment of jovialness, but it's also very, very temporary, because then we get the other dinner scene, with the asparagus, and I hate asparagus, which of course comes up in the diary, asparagus again. I hate asparagus. Does this mean I'll never grow up?
I like asparagus.
Yes. Well, and for Laura, it does mean she's not going to grow up, because literally that was her last night.
Oh, I also like Brussels
sprouts. You know what I mean?
Though. I'm sorry. Okay.
Netter likes Brussels sprouts.
No, I don't. I like broccoli.
Oh, you like broccoli. I'm sorry. Yeah, that's right. Brussels sprouts are the little cabbagey looking things that get real bitter when you boil them.
Maybe I get them a particular way I think you get them a particular way if you go to Red Lobster. You get them like as a side that's roasted or something. They're not bad. Yeah,
if you roast them or like grate them up in a slaw, not so bad. But people tend to steam and boil them, and they come out really bitter. Anyway, I do think those two, the tonal difference between the two different, and of course, keep in mind too that Laura is now aware, of who Leland is, and the whole under this fingernail and all this kind of stuff, and it really sets Sarah off. It really bothers all of them. It's really, really, really creepy. So I think that juxtaposition is kind of intentional. Let's see. Laura's party, there's this scene that seems completely detached from everything else, although not so much in the grander scheme of things. She meets up with a trucker and trades sex for drugs, and this lets you know that this is a typical side hustle she does all the time. It's, what is it? For you it was a big deal. For me it was just a Tuesday. Just whatever.
That's a line from Street Fighter the movie.
Exactly. Yes. we have the scene of Pete and Josie and I don't know who it was, the whole 2x4 scene.
Yeah.
Did you know that's not in the script at all?
Really?
Yeah, and I wonder
on the spot.
I'm wondering how much of it was improvised on the spot and why it was filmed, and I wonder if it has something to do with the scene that Pete has in the prequel where he's going 2x2, 4x8, and he's thinking through, the sizes of measures. I wonder if there was meant to be a connection there.
Is it ironic that Josie, I guess, worked at what a wood mill? Is that right?
Right.
Managed it, and then she ends up being stuck inside wood.
Oh, I never made that connection before. That's an excellent point.
Yes.
That's right. Also, the fact that this scene is cut. Do you realize it's Jack Nance's only scene in the film? Otherwise,
Right.
and he gets cut, which is kind of sad. Normally you expect Jack Nance to be in everything somehow, right?
But there's only so much room in a movie. I mean, granted, we're watching the extended version too, because this is really
True.
Trying just to cover the last days of Laura Palmer, right? I mean, this is...
But again, I do feel like the backstory for a lot of these characters is also important. The death of Teresa Banks is also important. A lot of her scenes are cut, making things very unclear, which is why I think that the missing pieces add insight. They're implied by other things like Laura's diary and just single lines here and there in other episodes of the original series. So I think that seeing them as completely non-canon is not fair. But I do think they give insight to the overall story. Like, for example, the Meals on Wheels scene where, what's her name? I'm sorry, I'm drawing a blank. The owner of the diner. Norma, right? Thank you. Norma says to Shelley, "Could you help out Laura with the Meals on Wheels?" And in that scene, you almost feel like she doesn't want to help Laura, but you probably project onto her that that's probably because they both have a relationship with Bobby, and Shelley feels odd about it. This is the only indication of that in the prequel in Fire Walk with Me, but it's kind of important, I think. I saw it. Sorry I was late, guys. That's okay, Nate. Don't worry about that. I think the mother already knows what's happening, but she doesn't want to admit it. Yeah, we've kind of talked about that a little bit, and I don't think she has the strength to bring it up unless Laura directly shares it with her. It's almost like she wants her to directly share it with her, so she would feel forced to deal with it. Like she wants to deal with it, but she doesn't have the strength otherwise. For you, the day that M. Bison visits your insignificant village was the most important day in your pitiful life. But for me, it was just a Tuesday.
Yeah, Street Fighter, yeah.
There's some great scenes.
That is an underrated movie. Very, very good movie.
Yes. I love Raul Julia in that. Raul Julia would have been fascinating if he had ever been on Twin Peaks. I don't know who he would have played though. Yes.
Oh, yeah, right. No doubt. And that kind of leads us to the best friend scene, right? It's right after seeing her father leave the house. She's really upset. It's really necessary that she gets the comfort from the contrasting normal family, the Haywards, right? Now, in the script, there's a scene. I don't know if you guys knew this. Have you guys read the script separate from the scenes?
No.
Okay. That's why I'm bringing up some of this stuff. In the script, Doc Hayward's magic scene goes a little bit differently. They hear Doc Hayward in the kitchen. He walks in with a magician's handkerchief, and with a flourish, he tries to pull something out of it. Instead, his hand is empty. Doc Hayward says, The red rose. Where's the red rose? Frustrated. You know, the light at Sparkwood in 21, it worked right there. I just did it right there. And so there's this implication that he did the trick at Sparkwood in 21, right?
Mm-hmm.
So later on, when Laura jumps off the bike and James peels off, there was going to be a shot that panned down to Doc Hayward's wilted red rose. He left it there or dropped it there. And that's why he couldn't do the trick for her later on. Also, he talks about the angels. What was the line? Something about the angel will be there at the end and you'll smile and laugh with joy or something like that, which is clearly a reference to the last scene. That was one of the missing pieces that was cut. And in fact, all of the references to angels are in the missing pieces. They're cut out of the theatrical release. So I don't know why that angel imagery is missing. It does seem to be kind of important. There's a scene, an extended scene of Bob speaking through Laura, under the fan, right? So the idea that she associates the ceiling fan with Bob, coming, we get that from the secret diary, right? Whenever the fan is on, she knows that's a night Bob is coming. When you see the ceiling fan on in the show, if you know, you know. Otherwise, it's just a mood piece, a sense of ominousness that you don't really understand why it's so ominous, unless you've read the Secret Diary. But Fire Walk With Me shows us the ritual of drugging Sarah, turning on the fan, crawling in Laura's window, etc. And Laura's associated the fan with that ritual. The scene also highlights that the fan is electric and it could be a conduit for Bob because electricity, right?
Electricity.
Exactly. Also, it's not in the script, but in the filming that Sarah says, "Oh no, it's happening again." This echoes the fireman as well as Annie, who says, "I'm afraid this is all going to happen again."
So I have a question. I don't know, because I know we might be a little pressed for time, but the Leo, Jean Reno or Jacques? Jean Reno, right?
They're kind of interchangeable, but yeah, Jacques Renault.
Jacques Renault. Okay, and that whole scene, especially with the bird and all that, I was wondering in that scene, because Leland shows up, right?
Yes.
And then later on, we know he kills Jacques. So is the inference now from this movie that he's killing Jacques because he's a material witness to perhaps maybe he thinks Jacques saw him?
If Bob is involved in that murder, I would say that's exactly right. But on the other hand, another possible read on that is when Bob isn't directly involved with controlling Leland may not be 100% aware of the things he does as Bob. So this is Leland suspecting that Jacques Renault was responsible for the death of his daughter, and it's literally a father taking revenge on who he thinks is the murderer of his daughter.
Yeah,
but I guess I'm reading it two different ways now because
Yep.
I never quite trusted that whole revenge thing. I know that's what we in the audience were supposed to maybe think, and that this is all this. But I'm now really wondering that, like, is this Bob Leland that murdered Jacques or Leland, and
Yeah.
that's what I still don't. I don't know if the series ever
I don't
clarified that.
either. Yeah,
It might
that's
even
always been my
be
question.
Leland is looking at Jacques like, you were intimate with my daughter. I'm going to kill you now.
Yeah, that's a fair read on it too. And I'm not going to take a strong. We're not going to talk about. No, I'm joking there, but I'm not going to take a strong stand on it because I do think that all of those perspectives are valid. You know, we'll get to something else in a moment, but when Leland is Bob and when he's not always 100% clear, but I do feel like there's a moment in Firewalk with Me at the death of Laura, and we also see it just before the death of Leland, where you realize that there really is bits of memory that are kept from Leland, that Bob is aware of, that Leland is not. I think Leland, what is that Nate saying? I think that Leland wants the chance of being a grieving father because he's not aware of Bob. He's aware of Bob, but he's not aware of everything he does as Bob. And I think we get that at that moment that he's about to kill Laura when he says the line, "Don't make me do this." He's saying this to potentially saying it to Laura because Laura has made the choice forcing Bob to kill her. I'm not going to let Bob have me, so you have to kill me. So that could be Leland saying it to Laura, but he's also saying it to Bob. Don't make me kill my daughter. You get the distinctive impression that Bob is taking control and Leland doesn't have that control. You also see it at the moment that he pretty much decides to end his life in the series, when he gets all these memories of what he did as Bob. They were kept from him, and now suddenly he's flush with this and he can't live with it. And he kind of wants to lash out at himself and at Bob. Or at least that's my read on all of that. So, yeah. There's also something I think that's very interesting and I think almost necessary. One of the things from the missing pieces that I think is a very good thing. The extended Partyland scene establishes that this takes place up in Canada. You know, welcome to Canada, right? And this is not a scene that takes place in some kind of like back room of the Roadhouse. I think the edited version, it's not clear, and I think a lot of people thought that this was taking place in some like speakeasy section of the Roadhouse, and Partyland is definitely someplace in Canada that I almost kind of wish it had been One-Eyed Jack's, but it's not. It's a separate place. It's this Partyland place. So that makes it clear these missing scenes, so to speak, and also the extended Party Girl scenes give us the whole setup for Teresa realizing who. And again, the Party Girl scene is different from the Party Land scene. The Party Land being a place, the Party Girl being Teresa and Ronette and Laura getting together with Leland and Leland backing out when he sees Laura. That whole extended scene gives us the whole setup for Teresa realizing who Leland is and that she's going to blackmail him, leading to the whole reason he has to kill her, right? So that she can't blackmail him. And that's maybe as much Leland as it is Bob, right? Not to have that over her. And of course, giving us the whole serial killer thing, which is why the FBI is involved in the first place. Also, we get to see her wearing the ring, which is key. There was meant to be a whole scene between Laura and Ben Horn at Johnny's birthday, and it was supposed to have to do with drugs and sex. And the reason it doesn't exist is because Richard Bamer didn't feel great about all of that after the arc his character had already been through on the show, the kind of redemptive arc. Even though this is clearly supposed to be something that happens before all that, Richard Bamer didn't want to do that. It was also going to show that Ben had a picture of Laura on his desk, but no picture of Audrey. And Leland notices this. And this prompts Sylvia to ask about it and where Johnny's picture might be. And she's very angrily asks about the picture of herself that she had given him. That is also not there. Yeah. And Ben comes up with, well, it's at the engraver getting a gold gilded, and yeah, but exactly, it's very icky and very creepy, and kind of I understand why Richard Bamer didn't want to do it, but that's why it was there. There's also Jacoby's whole setup scene, which also references that party, so that might be why it was cut, but that kind of gives us the whole Jacoby having a very different perspective of his relationship with Laura than what we see here. Laura's kind of like not on the same page with Jacoby. It's like, Doc, she's kind of disgusted by him, and he thinks they have some kind of a love affair going on. It's very, very icky, very icky. We also get the scene of Garland reading the Bible. He's actually reading the Book of Revelation, which can almost be seen as a direct commentary on what's happening with the Black Lodge and all of that setup and everything. It's a great scene for him and his wife. She's just sitting there listening to him very lovingly, as the patriarch of the family. I get the distinct impression from Charlotte Stewart, who plays his wife. She very much was very open about her motivation as that character, having that kind of loving relationship with her husband and having this wanting Bobby to do better and having this vision for him. And that's another reason that she loves her husband so much. It's because he does have that vision for their son, and I think there's a lot of payoff for that in The Return.
Oh, absolutely. I think Bobby has the greatest character arc of them all, really. And I've said this before, obviously, but to go from not only where we see him in season 1, but where we find him here in Fire Walk with Me, to where he eventually gets to in The Return. It's almost like we are seeing him become a Jedi. And I've kind of referred to characters on the show as Jedis and Time Lords and all this,
right.
This and that, but it's kind of true. So it's like we are seeing basically this foul up become a samurai,
right?
And it's a great arc, and
which also kind of gives us a little bit of a plot hole when you take into account him shooting the cop from Deer Meadow. This guy kills a cop and nobody figures it out, even, with the fact that he was sent there by Renault. So he knows about it and what happened to him. Where's the body? Because I really don't get the impression that he and Laura did a great job of covering up that body by sprinkling debris over him. Right.
Some kind of forest creature's going to get to that body. It's gonna.
That's a possible fan explanation for it, but otherwise we really don't, we don't get any resolution on that anywhere here.
And you kind of get the idea, or at least this is just me, that maybe Renault, and by Renault I mean Michael Parks, would probably be willing to. He would probably see Cliff as expendable.
Yeah, so maybe, and he also doesn't see Bobby as that important of a part of this, compared to say Leland or what's his name, Norma's husband.
It's like yeah, he would be willing to sacrifice Cliff, but not, like, obviously not any of his brothers, maybe not Hank.
Right.
Even though even though Hank does eventually get sacrificed, as we find out in the final dossier, and Leo is quote unquote a moneymaker for him, so he's not going to spend him off so quickly.
Right.
But it's like, Cliff, okay, we'll just buy another one. That's
I suppose that's the way of looking at it. I kind of get that. And the one last scene that I want to comment on, there's not a lot to say about it, but it's huge, is the distant screams scene where Margaret hears the girls screaming in the woods and she's tormented by it and she's in tears.
Yeah.
And part of the tragedy of Margaret, and also why she's a little off, right, is because she knows things that she can't do anything with. She doesn't know enough to be able to say to the police, Leland is killing Laura, stop him. She doesn't know that much. She knows someone is doing something to Laura, and this is Laura's crucial night, but she doesn't know enough of the it's like all the movies where a psychic knows something and wants to tell the police but doesn't have the evidence, because what are you going to say? I saw it in a vision, and in Margaret's visions, she doesn't even have that clear of an idea of what's going on. When she talks in riddles, it's because that's how she's seeing things,
Right.
So that's the tragedy of her character, just my take on that.
Whew. That's rough.
You even get it in the return when she's talking at least Hawk will listen to her. And when he doesn't understand her, he at least appreciates that she doesn't either. And he takes as much of it as he can to investigate it as much as he can. He does what he can with it, and sometimes it even pays off. It leads him to like the missing pages, and leads him to Dido in the woods and stuff like that. But not everyone can go that far with Margaret, and otherwise they otherwise just kind of say she's nuts and kind of blow off what she's trying to say. Anyway, that's my take on all that. And I do feel like we're going to have to revisit a lot more of this when we get back to the missing pieces, and when we revisit, and we're definitely going to do this when we revisit Queen of Hearts.
Yes. So. Do you and Netter have a timetable?
Yeah, we do have to get going like now. Like now. So I'm probably gonna just the two of us are gonna drop. If you guys want to, comment or wrap up the show, go ahead. This is my fault. I babbled because I
Okay.
got a little involved in my notes
And if you
stuff.
stay right here, you will be redirected to Sherlock Holmes.
Yeah, both of our channels, are directed. So anyway, sorry, I'm going to drop, but thank you so much for letting me just go on with my thoughts and whatnot.
Good night,
So,
everyone.
Good night.
take care, everyone.
Bye.
Bye-bye.
Okay. All right.
Just
Well,
you and I.
The world of Twin Peaks. There's much to unpack.
Well, we're always discovering new things. Like I just thought that
Indeed.
that thing about Josie Packard and the wood. See, she worked at a wood plant, and then now
Yep.
she's part of a night table. Anyway,
Yeah.
so, yes.
It very much goes into Shining territory, because I'm always kind of half expecting some short film where it's like, well, you've always been the caretaker, Josie,
Well, you wonder what else is happening in that hotel, right? There's probably secrets in that hotel that we don't
Oh,
even know
quite
about.
a bit. I
Yeah.
mean, in the international version, Bob is just this guy who works at the hotel, and he's in the basement, and yeah, so
Interesting.
it is, so I do believe that the Great Northern holds a great many secrets, and
I gotcha.
who knows, maybe I wouldn't be surprised if there's somebody out there that we don't know that's already writing those stories. I wouldn't be shocked.
Possibly. Yeah. Yeah. Cool.
Indeed. All right. Well, as Troy said, he is getting set up now for his Sherlock Holmes rewatch. And this is an important episode because this is the first episode of the return of Sherlock Holmes, where we get to see how he survived his battle with his arch nemesis, Professor Moriarty, on Reichenbach Falls.
Yes.
All right. So I do want to thank everyone who joined us this evening. Everyone on X, I can't see you, but I know that you're there. Mainly because I've had a lot of trouble with Twitter this evening, so I haven't been seeing anybody.
Okay.
Yeah. So I do want to thank anyone who, of course, might be lurking in the background. There's always one or two. Quite all right. You do not have to engage with the chat. Just as long as you enjoy the show, hit the like, share out the stream, do all the clicky things, because the algorithm likes that. I do want to thank everybody who's with us here tonight in the chat. Lady Mist, Railway Nation Gaming Recap, Lieutenant Giratina, Nate, of course, Charlotte, Enigma Severus, our resident Klingon Mark Malnikoff, Ruby Hoove, always good to see you. Scrolling up, Andrea Black, Big Al Presents. And of course, thank you once again, Connie, for re-upping your membership there. Good to have you back. All right. So, Boomer, what do you have coming up?
Let's see. What do I have coming up this week? I'll be on Friday with Troy for Last Call, and we'll have some interesting topic. We'll have an interesting topic to talk about, and then Sunday you can catch us on Geeky Geezers. We're not sure what we're going to be talking about yet. I'll try to see if there are any interesting Super Bowl commercials. I heard there were a lot of weird ones. Something with Mike Tyson yelling at the public or something. I don't know.
Apparently.
We got to look into that. So yeah, that'll be on Sunday.
All right. Well, I'll speak for Troy and Netter. Of course, Liquid Lunch, 1 p.m. Eastern, 12 p.m. Central, every weekday. Of course, Friday Night Last Call at 10 p.m. Thursday Things over on Netter's channel. That's at 10 p.m. Eastern, 9 p.m. Central. And of course, Troy and Netter, and I believe possibly myself, let me know, Al, will be joining Big Al Presents on Saturday for Saturday the 14th. That will be
Oh,
the film this week. As for myself, Thursday, I will be joining Outlaw Bill back at our regular time of 4:30 Eastern for Action Theater. This week's movie is Cobra, starring
oh,
Sylvester Stallone from
that's a good one.
1986. Yes. Later on that night, right after Thursday Things, is my program, Coming Attractions. Get to find out what I'm going to be up to for the next week. Up to and including my appearance this Friday at 8 p.m. on Films with Friends, special Friday the 13th edition, and we are going to be watching Friday the 13th, A New Beginning.
Hmm.
Al and myself, and maybe a couple of other guests.
Cool.
Saturday at 6 p.m., I will be joined by Wilkie's Movies and Music as we list off our 10 worst movies of 2025. Always a fun show, so stay tuned for that. As
That'll be fun.
indeed, and then of course Corey will be joining me Sunday, also at 6 p.m. for the best of. I am hoping to do reserved seats that evening. I don't have a guest set up yet, but I got a couple of people in mind. It's just a matter of who can make it. So, yeah, plenty to go around. Stay tuned. Of course, reviews. I still have to review Shelby Oaks, so stay tuned for that. I might do a couple of other movies along the way. And I've also got an unboxing because I got a little care package from our friend, That 70s Rock fan. So stay tuned for that.
Cool.
All right. So I do want to thank everybody for joining us here once again this evening. Please join us next week. Same bat time, same bat channel. For Live from Sparkwood in 21. As I always say at the end of every broadcast from HQ, the intersection of Sparkwood and 21 and all points north, south, east, west, and beyond. Good night. Take care. Stay strong. Be safe and healthy because this is how we win.